Hello there, Ray here, and today guys I'd like to show you a new 1.14 trick which allows you to do some cool stuff with instant breaking blocks. We came across this trick during our Wednesday and Friday snapshot streams with the viewers, so if you guys would ever like to join a server with me and work on stuff, definitely come by and take part in those streams. And there's links down in the description to my Twitch channel which shows you my schedule. Those streams are always a lot of fun and we always come up with new things. And while we're on there, safety first, show me this weird little trick where you're able to avoid different types of blocks turning which normally would turn. So let's just show you an example. So if I click on this side of this block with this log here, you'll see the log will be pointing this direction. But if I click on this side of the block, you'll see the log is now turned this direction. And the way the trick works, if you want to actually get a log that is facing up and down like this, but you don't have any blocks underneath like I do here, you can't easily get this block into a situation because it doesn't matter which side you click on, the log will orientate itself depending on which side you clicked on. But if you do this, all of a sudden the log is facing straight up and down. Now this should not be possible because there is no blocks underneath of us to align ourselves to. If there was a block like this and I clicked right here, it wouldn't make sense that it's facing up and down. But using this trick, we're able to avoid having any blocks there, and we're able to have certain types of blocks rotate in positions which you normally can't do. So we did a bunch of testing with this, and I went ahead and pulled out a bunch of different blocks to kind of show you how it all works. Now, if you want to do this in survival, you can't easily just instant break this block and then place in a new one. Probably could be really quick with like your axe and pull it off, but what's easier to do is actually use a slime block or like a TNT block, which are instant break. So here I'm in survival, and I can go ahead and instantly break that slime block and place in this acacia log right here. Now back in the day, there used to be a similar kind of trick that you could do, but it's a little bit different, where when you were building, you can actually come in and place a block here and destroy this block at the same time. So what you do is you would both right click and left click, and this would break this block but leave this block here, and you'd end up like a situation like this. That got removed several versions ago. Now if you do that, you see all you do is break the block and replace the block. But just in 1.14 they actually add this thing where you could break and place blocks instantly. Before you had to first break a block and then place a block. Even if it seemed like it was very close together, this is actually done at the same time now. And that is what allows this trick to be possible in 1.14. So this trick is actually very useful for builders as well as people doing different types of technical Minecraft as well. Now we're builders where a lot of times they're trying to get a block to be rotated just correctly. They normally have to like place down some scaffolding, then place the log, and then like remove the scaffolding. This works with any block where it depends on which side you are clicking on. So the difference is this is clicking where I'm clicking on different sides, and this is different than facing. So barrels, you can see if I stand here, I can place a barrel like this. And if I face here, I place a barrel like this. But this is actually differently because if I click on this side, it doesn't change any different than if I click on this side. So like the barrel here is actually using which way my character is rotating, and it's not using what block I'm actually looking at. This doesn't care which way I'm rotating, it just cares on which block I'm pointing at. So I have some examples here. Another nice one to use is hoppers. So if you have a situation like this where you want to have a hopper facing straight down, normally you can't really do this because every time you put a hopper in, it's always going to be connecting with the side below. But if you use this trick, you'll see that we end up with the hopper facing directly downwards. Now this can also be done with trapdoors. Trapdoors, depending on which block you click on, that's where the hinge will be. So if I face this way and click on this block, you'll see the hinge is over here. But let's say there is no block over here, but I want the hinge to face this direction. If I use this trick, you can see I actually get the hinge to act like it is placed up against a block, even though there is no block over here. And a block like a grindstone is also dependent on what block you're facing. So if I face this block, if I click up against that one, you see it rotates that way. If I rotate that way, see how it keeps rotating. So I can actually make the grindstone face up and down like there is a block underneath of it, but there actually isn't, and it can just sit just like that. Here's another one. It's a wither skull. So you can face wither skulls onto blocks, and they're kind of up against it. This type of wither skull is a little bit different than if there was a block underneath of it. I'll show you guys the difference. So here you can see there's a gap between the wall as well as the skull, and here you can see it's up against the block there. And typically to get the ones on the ground, you would have to have a block down there to place it on, because otherwise you'd just be placing it on the wall. But with this trick, you can go ahead and you can place it just like it's on the ground, and you don't need to have any block there. So if I place a block underneath, you can kind of judge, see how it is centered right in the middle. And you can actually even rotate it too. So if I want it kind of rotated kitty corner, you can see I can do that as well. So it kind of takes in account the default type of wither skull being the one that is on the ground, as well as which rotation you are facing. And then there's other blocks such as like shulker boxes, which you guys probably know pretty well as being able to be placed on different sides and they'll face different direction, meaning which way they will open. So if you want to have like a shulker facing directly up and down, I can actually do that. And now the shulker is facing up, even though I had no blocks underneath of it. Now, in some situations, the block is actually taking the form of which way you're also facing. So with the shulker box, you've seen that I was able to make it go directly upwards, but if I go underneath of it and I do the same trick, you'll see I'm actually able to make it go downwards now. So something like a grindstone, if you do this to a grindstone, you'll see it also goes upside down. And if there's like no block behind it and you do this, you can see it rotates to the side. So you can kind of use this to get blocks going in any direction, but you have to also make sure that you're facing in the correct direction. So if you wanted to have like a log that was facing towards you, then make sure that you're up at this Y level. Because if you're like down here and you do this, then it's going to turn out like this. Now there's some blocks that kind of need support. So like this fan here, normally when you place it down, it needs a block to support it. And the way that it works is that it'll just kind of search for support. If it can find it, then it'll automatically rotate in that direction. If it can't find it, then it'll just not do anything. So a situation like this, if I do the trick even facing straight down, you see the coral just went ahead and rotated till it found a block. But if the block was completely isolated and I try to do this trick, it will not work. So there's a lot of supporting blocks. So banner would be acting the same way. Depending on which way you face it is which way it will turn. Even if you're facing and no blocks at all, it'll just find whatever block it can attach to and attach directly to it. So you can't use this to make like floating banners or anything like that. Now beds are the same way. Typically you need a block to at least click on to place them down, but I can click on top of this. As long as there's room over here, it will automatically place the bed down. But if there is no room over here, then it just won't work. So using this new trick, we can actually make some invalid blocks. So let me grab a shulker, and we're also going to grab a grindstone, and let's go down to the bottom of the world. So here is the bottom of our testing world. Underneath of this is a void. You can't place any blocks underneath here. So you can actually make some invalid block states, which you normally can't get in survival. So let's say you wanted to put a grindstone, where the grindstone was sitting on the void. If I click like this, I'm not clicking anything. If I click this way, you can see how it's always rotating. Let's say if there was a block above and you just happen to go underneath of it and you try to click a grindstone, you'll see the grindstone goes upside down. This is what it would look like. But using this trick that we have here, we can go ahead and actually get these invalid blocks by doing this trick. And you can see we ended up with a grindstone that is actually sitting on the void. Now you can do this at either world limit. So you could do this at the bottom world, and I can show you this could also be done at the top of the world. So I built all the way up to here, and you can see I can't place any more blocks up here. And if you did want to place a grindstone facing downwards, you can't really click on the air. Of course, if you click on the sides, then it's going to be rotated differently. But if you use the trick, you can go ahead and face one that is facing upwards. No blocks can actually be placed above it. You can also do this with the shulker box. So shulker box facing this way, you can see it goes up and down. But if I go ahead and place in a slime here and then do this, now we actually have a shulker box, which is essentially connected to the void, which is above the world. Now, we initially thought this could also be done with the wither skull, but I can show you how this does not affect them, because the wither skull, we thought, well, you could place a wither skull on the bottom of the world by doing this trick here, but you can also have a skull being placed in this direction if you just remove all the blocks from the side and click upwards. You see it automatically default by placing it directly on top of the void. So that's a block that can actually rotate all the different directions and have a unique face. So something like a hopper cannot be rotated upwards, and therefore if you click upwards, you see there's nothing unique about this hopper. So this doesn't work for these type of blocks. So something like terracotta doesn't care which block you're actually facing up against. It's going to determine its pattern depending on which way you're actually facing. Same goes for like anvil. It just cares about what you're facing. Pistons are the same way. So unfortunately, you can't do this with pistons. If you do something like this, you see it's facing upwards, but that's no different than if you just click on the side here, it's also facing upwards. Something like scaffolding, if there's no supported block underneath of it, it's not even going to work. And barrels actually rotate very similar to chests, depending on which way you're facing. Choppers and dispensers are just the same as pistons, where it depends on which way your character is facing. But you're still able to do this trick where like you're facing air and you're able to place them down. You just don't get any unique rotation out of them. Now they did also come out with a 1.14.2 full release, and I highly recommend if you're having servers that are still running or single player worlds, definitely upgrade to this version because it has the least bugs of all the versions in the past. Now it still has some major problems to do with like the villagers. They didn't really fix many of the problems I talked about, but they are trying to fix those. And between the last snapshot and the full release, they only actually fixed one bug, but it's kind of a nasty one. This is one that we kind of ran into during the stream. If there was a block that got inside of the player, then the player could just glitch out inside of it and wouldn't be able to move. And it would just keep kind of resetting the player's position as well as his rotation, so you couldn't even like rotate downwards to remove the block, which was causing the problem. I'll put a clip from our stream when it occurred to us, and it was really annoying because when we're doing a lot of testing, obviously we go into spectator mode and we go back into creative and we're set of blocks, and then you get clipped in there and you can't really do much other than going back into spectator to get back out again. In survival is even more annoying. Cup Van actually got stuck inside of a door, and yeah, he couldn't even like rotate to break the door. So he had a Scar come over there and actually help him get out of the door, which is pretty funny. But that bug has been fixed. Other than that, there wasn't officially any other bug fixes for the version. Now they did say they are working on version 1.15, and they will be giving some updates on what that's going to be all about. Hopefully they're not completely gave up on 1.14. I'd like to see them come out with 1.14.3, where they fix a lot of other major bugs. A useful little trick which can really help you building not only in creative as well as in survival. And you can also trick your friends by showing them this and see if they can figure out how you did it. If you discover any other cool tricks to do with this, please tell me down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and go ahead and subscribe to see more videos like this. And if you'd like to work with me on new 1.14 things, come and join our snapshot streams, which are every Wednesday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!